This video is brought to you by Skillshare. Stay tuned to find out more. During the commercial hip-hop gold rush of the early 2000s, it's no exaggeration to say that 50 Cent had captured not just the East Coast throne, but was beginning to vie for control over the entire marketplace. Whip-smart, confrontational, and harboring a backstory that was the stuff of major motion pictures to come, 50's rise gave him room to do what any superstar would do: bolster those around you. Comprised of 50, the punchline King Lloyd Banks, and the eternal underboss of Tony Yayo, and the infectious southern drawl of Young Buck, the clique was so solidified in the cultural world that they were even digitized and sent on outlandish, gun-toting quests within 50's first video game, Bulletproof. Overseen by G-Unit Records' resident mastermind Sha Money XL, this period was defined by clothing lines, a license to print platinum plaques, and an overarching feeling that this crew would take on all comers, including any would-be members that strayed off course. Although the heyday of this menacing crew coincided with 50's most prolific era as an artist, his recent remarks and the sentiments that he's harbored over the past few years would suggest that he's put it behind him and will banish it from his mind entirely if possible.
Is there going to be a G-Unit movie, man? Or are you just going to fix everything amongst the clique first?
I don't care to do that. I'd like to forget the G-Unit. Like Kendrick don't even let them boys come on stage when he perform. I could have did that.
By renouncing a key part of his journey, 50's comments suggest that those early successes can't cancel out the near decade and a half of turmoil that's followed. However, this outlook doesn't allow 50 to take accountability for the rifts that he helped create. For example, it's ironic that he informed Who Kid of his plans to disassociate from G-Unit, considering the DJ himself was embroiled in the drama-saturated inner workings of G-Unit from the off.
Like, if you go on YouTube, you can see like all the countries that got fired on. He was ruthless, like he was smacking everybody, like he would smack people per day. If he didn't have nothing to talk about or to do, he would just smack random people on the bus, like.
Providing each member with a claim to the tune of sales in the 100,000 region, the era from the release of 50's landmark debut album Get Rich or Die Trying in 2003 to the emergence of Tony Yayo's Thoughts of a Predicate Felon was an illustrious run for the group that seemed to set the course for each man to stand tall, both when flanked by their brothers and on their own 2 feet. Yet, in the wake of 50's recent comments, Hot 97's Ebro not only relayed the grim fate that the group suffered, but explained where a comparison to classic groups such as NWA falls apart.
The individuals in the group went on to become icons unto themselves. Whereas with G-Unit, the individuals didn't go on after G-Unit to become these internationally renowned icons. Amazing rappers, and I love Lloyd Banks and I love Yayo. I even like Buck's album, but it's not Dre, Eazy-E, and Ice Cube.
So I want to take a quick little break right here and thank our friends at Skillshare, a unique service that enables creatives to turn their dreams into reality. Taking the knowledge and know-how to the general public, Skillshare offers thousands of classes that'll provide you with the tools to make headway with your chosen craft, whether it be learning how to rap, making beats, or editing music videos. Skillshare has you covered. In fact, we leveled up by finding out how to mix this video's music by the legend Young Guru, who was the one that sculpted a lot of Jay-Z's most legendary tracks. The famed engineer makes the secrets of the pros more accessible than ever before. So, what are you waiting for? Skillshare works out to be less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. However, the first 1,000 people to click the link in the description get a 2-month free trial of premium membership and access to their massive learning library. Head over to Skillshare now and start your journey. Since the early stages of the last decade onward, 50 has been upfront about the disappointment that he feels about their declining fortunes. And in his mind, he's at least partly to blame, as he's allowed them to become overly reliant on his star power, as opposed to forcing them to become self-sustainable. I actually haven't spoken to them very much. I'm the fault for that though. I think I disabled them, he told XXL in 2012. I did so much for them that they don't have a continuous work ethic. They got both of those tapes out there, but did you see any visuals? Anything? When someone works for you, you have the habit of dealing with things by not dealing with them. You make it in the regimen of coming over and doing it for them. In some ways, 50's comments hold weight, as when you're in close proximity to the era's biggest star, groups such as Biggie's Junior Mafia and Tupac's Outlaws demonstrate how it would become very easy to grow complacent. That said, what 50's remarks overlook is how beef was both simmering and stoked from the Massacre era onwards. In a story that merited an in-depth examination in itself, Dr. Dre's protege and G-Unit's first West Coast representative, The Game, set the tone for rebellion, something which 50 was, unsurprisingly, not willing to tolerate. As a result, when Buck formally was kicked out in 2008, Curtis Jackson's statement suggested that he should have learned that there was a hefty price to pay for refusing to fall in line. He feels he has to go against what I'm doing, similar to some of the things we've seen from Game. But then he'll back off of it when we're in direct conversation. When he's out in public, he'll say something. They're like my younger brothers, but they'll do things for attention. A move that paved the way for leaked phone calls, underhanded accusations, and failed attempts to reconcile for years to come. It's notable that, although he didn't officially declare it, 50's early efforts to rewrite history and abolish G-Unit from beyond the grave came in 2019 when he removed Young Buck's road trip video from YouTube. Although he's tried his best to laugh it off, a June 2020 conversation with No Jumper saw Buck reveal that his ties to G-Unit and enduring a 50 Cent smear campaign has meant that he's still stifled to this day.
You know, for a long time, and going through it like you just said for so long, I used to figure out, damn, this was an individual. I looked at my brother, like, why you don't want me to feed my kids, homie? Like, okay, if we have our differences or whatever they may be, in my eyes, homie, I ain't never took nothing from you, so why so harsh of a way in trying to stop me from progressing in life?
Always as content on making enemies as he is making friends, this behavior hints at the reoccurring themes of G-Unit members' contributions being gradually discredited and, if it was up to 50, stricken from the record once and for all. Prone to belittling his former comrades at every turn while acting perplexed by their anger, many of his public comments that arrived after their heyday haven't portrayed G-Unit as the battle-hardened brotherhood that peered out from the cover of Beg for Mercy. Instead, he's recast Buck, Yayo, and Banks as disposable hired hands that were dropped when 50 believed that they'd harvested what they could. Or as he harshly depicted it during a 2014 interview on The Breakfast Club, although other members of the crew opted to ignore it, these comments hurt Tony Yayo, who tweeted then deleted that, as much bullets I took for G-Unit, my mom's crib shot up, almost killed my sis and my niece. Now I'm compared to milk. I make that brand. While the initial trio have received the lion's share of 50's jabs, it's important to note that his scorn was never limited to the core crew. Namely, when it came to his attempts to branch out into guiding an R&B starlet to new heights in the form of Olivia. After he placed her front and center with the feature on Candy Shop, 50 has since aired both of their personal and professional dirty laundry in public during an appearance with Angie Martinez, inferring that
it got kind of crazy, like, because she went to work with Missy, and then I think Missy hit that.
Uplifting with one hand and chopping down with the other, 50's tendencies to throw his former recruits to the wolves rather than safeguarding them could be a factor in not only why 50 wants to forget the G-Unit experiment altogether, but why their careers became untwined. In short, 50's spiteful nature and the resentment that he felt about aiding their journeys to success is incompatible with the mindset that a leader within hip-hop traditionally has. Time and time again, we've seen that being a successful label head requires a mentality where you aid dreams without constantly requiring them to pay you homage. As in, since they're constantly standing in your shadow, how can they be expected to progress beyond it? To this end, 50 does take moderate responsibility for not equipping his soldiers as he believes he could have. Chronicled in his 2019 book, Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter, 50 claimed that, "I always felt that if I had maybe done a better job teaching Banks and Yayo how to evolve and change their habits, they each would be in better places right now," he said in the book, noting they both had unfulfilled potential. "While I was out hustling, Banks was more content staying on his porch and watching the world from there. Banks wanted things to come to him as opposed to going out and getting them for himself." Amid revealing that Banks had an immediate aversion to social media and that Tony Yayo saw club shows as an opportunity to sell cocaine and enhance their profits, 50 believed that the latter's outlook wasn't made for longevity in the game. "If I got into a disagreement with another artist, Yayo's reaction was, 'Let's just bang him,' because that would have been his response in the neighborhood. I'd have to tell him, 'Yayo, we can't do that. Nothing else is gonna work if we're just running around. We're gonna be out of here just as fast as we got here.'" Left disheartened by their failure to launch in the ways that he predicted, 50's new approach appears to be chalk it all up to a loss, when in reality, there's a case to be made that it was an attempt to force chemistry, or more specifically, symmetry when their visions didn't necessarily align, and that proved to be their undoing. After Banks responded to 50 with the potent bar of, "Why would you get the credit for something that I could do without you?" on 2019's Cold Summer, Banks' unwillingness to bend to his former boss's will was fleshed out by Rory of the Joe Budden podcast as he fought in Banks' corner saying this.
So Banks was probably, 18 when they first started? He's not sure what he wants at that point. And then once he sees what that life may bring, he may want to step back and say, "No, I'm cool doing my mixtape and making my money here and making sure my family is good. I don't want any of what I see you're getting with that success because I know what comes with it."
My intention was for G-Unit to be the first branches in a family tree, 50 wrote in his book. "I birthed my sons, but they didn't bear me any children. It all stopped with them." While it's clear that this was his intention, the problem lies in whether 50 provided the nourishment that he believed he did, or if, in actual fact, his overbearing nature sapped their will to follow in his footsteps. Sparked by skewed expectations and the opposing viewpoints of everyone involved, G-Unit has left a legacy that only accounts for a morsel of what they could have achieved. And as disheartening as that may be, it's not grounds to be eradicated from history once and for all. With that clarity, 50 would be able to perhaps learn from it and become a music mogul for future generations in the same way that he's found his footing in the TV landscape. And more importantly, he perhaps realized why it'd be a shame for him to completely discount G-Unit's short-lived, but no less historic period of dominance. This has been a HipHopMadness original. Make sure to stay tuned and stay up to date on everything we got going on by hitting that subscribe button and notification bell. Oh, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram at HipHopMadness and join the movement.